the EFF says that the South African Human Rights Commission has incorrectly labelled comments made by its leader, Julius Malema, as hate speech. The Commission says it has received various complaints relating to statements allegedly made by Malema during the EFF's Provincial People's Assembly in the Western Cape last month. It says that Malema made insightful remarks about an incident at Brackenfell High School last year. He questioned why a white person seen beating up an EFF member was not taken to an isolated space and attended to properly. Now, let's discuss this further then when I joined via Zoom by the South African Human Rights Commission chairperson, Advocate Bongani Majola. Advocate Majola, very good afternoon to you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you too and your listeners.
Advocate, you've, as a commission, given the EFF lead 10 days, I understand, to retract those statements. What do you make of the party itself now saying that the comments by its leader are in fact not hate speech, as the commission has indeed labelled them?
Well, we stand by our view that these statements constitute incitement to violence. They also constitute hate speech, and that actually, in fact, they may constitute other violations of the Equality Act, such as harassment.
Yeah.
We note what the EFF has said publicly, but of course it hasn't changed our view about how we see the conduct as judged according to the operative law in the country.
How did you interpret that that statement that said dealt with correctly? Who's to say that they necessarily meant violence and that it was racially charged? I mean, how did you come to the fact that there was some sort of a human rights violation from the perspective of the South African Human Rights Commission? I mean, given that no words, intended to harm a person's whether race, gender were actually spoken, how did you come to that particular conclusion?
Well, by not reading that statement in isolation, by reading the statement in context, you'll remember that he didn't just start there with that statement. He lamented the fact that the revolutionaries had done nothing when they were beaten by this person, and that they shouldn't even call themselves revolutionaries. And that is when he then came to the point where he said that it's better that this person be found and taken to a quiet spot and then dealt with. And immediately after saying so, he followed by saying that you should not be afraid to kill, and he justified killing. So if you read it in that context, it's clearly inciting violence. Yeah. And it's against the law. So,
all right. You would want to punish inciting violence. What about punishing? You have a problem with inciting violence, and and what utterances were made by the EFF. Do you also have a problem with violence actually being perpetuated? Because what they were talking about was an incident where this particular gentleman had indeed beaten up one of their members. Did you weigh in on that particular incident where not only was an incitement of violence, but actual violence perpetuated on somebody?
We are against violence.
You're against it, but what did you do, sir? You're against it? What did you say? What did you do about it?
We have actually held a hearing in the Western Cape on violence.
Talk to me about it, that particular incident, sir. Not just violence in general, that particular incident.
But you should perhaps just listen to me a little bit.
Yes, sure, I am, sir.
Sometimes you decide to take things piecemeal. Sometimes you then try to deal a little bit more with, a little bit better with the problem. There is a huge problem of violence in the Western Cape. And instead of dealing with to start with, of course, that assault belongs to the police. But to deal with the incidents of violence, including that one, we have actually done an investigation, and we have held a hearing a few months ago on violence, because we feel that there's too much violence in the country. There's too much gender-based violence, and that something must be done we've actually adopted now a social harmony national effort in order to try and deal with the issues of violence. So we're taking a broad view, not just picking one item, but we are picking this one because there is an element of hate speech in it.
Yeah. All right. The DA has announced that they have a scheduled meeting with you as the South African Human Rights Commission. What is that meeting about, and what will your approach to these issues that the party is raising be?
Which meeting are you talking about? The offer by the EFF to meet us?
No, sir, no. I said the DA has announced that they have a scheduled meeting with you as a commission. And what is that meeting about? I suppose you know at this point what that particular meeting is about and how you plan to approach issues that will be raised then by them.
Yeah, I apologize. I think that my network is weak. So when you started speaking, it cut off. We have already had a meeting with the leadership of the DA. We had a meeting this morning in the office because the DA wanted to submit a complaint to the commission for investigation. And we were willing to meet with them and hear. They said that the complaint needs that they come and explain the complaint to us before they file the written complaint, and we obliged and we allowed them to do that.
Yeah.
They came and they gave us the complaint, and we promised that we were going to look at the complaint when we received the written complaint from them.
Yeah, I want to talk about, advocates, some of the sort of complaints that you receive, in general. When people believe that their human rights have been violated, where cases of hate speech or violence due to, whether it is race issues. I'm going to actually stick to the issue of race issues. How much of that are you receiving, particularly when we're talking about the Western Cape? And what sort of incidents are you then generally looking at as a whole when it comes to the Commission having to weigh in on these particular issues? All right, we seem to have lost Advocate Bongani Majola there. That is Advocate Bongani Majola, who is the chairperson for the South African Human Rights Commission.